The state's Republican Party officially censured Texas House Speaker Dade Phelan. Now, along with that censure, a resolution was passed stating the party will not associate with anti-Semites. Now, to give us a little insight here is Robert Downen with the Texas Tribune joining us this afternoon. Robert, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So a lot to unpack here, but let's start with Dade Phelan. What was the Republican Party of Texas's reasoning to censure Phelan?
Sure. So the Republican Party, their executive committee, a lot of it had to do with Phelan's appointment of Democrats to chair some House committees, as well as his role in the Ken Paxton impeachment, as well as what they said, was him effectively killing a border bill in May. And this was kind of a continuation of something we've seen from a little bit from some county level parties to close out last year. So.
And what does this censure exactly mean for him?
I think that from a political standpoint, it is, I think, kind of really the latest in this ongoing escalation, civil war between the Texas GOPs, the far right of the party and the more moderate wing in Phelan. And, we're already seeing this kind of used as fodder for campaigns ahead of a potentially competitive primary next month. So.
Okay, and then aside from this, there was an anti-Semitism resolution that was passed unanimously. Can you break down what's in that resolution and what that means for the party?
Sure. So what we're dealing with is, one clause in a much broader resolution that said that the party, basically always has opposed and will not associate with people who espouse anti-Semitism. And basically what that was a reversal from December, when the Texas GOP's executive committee narrowly defeated a little bit more robust resolution that would have said that they wouldn't associate with people who espouse or tolerate neo-Nazi beliefs, Holocaust denialism, or anti-Semitism. And that was kind of, on the tail end of months of reporting that I had done at the Texas Tribune, showing a lot of links between people connected to a major donor group and racists and white supremacists embedded in that group's orbit. So.
And Robert, were there any other differences in that resolution that did not pass back in December to this one that did pass over the weekend?
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing is that it was just a much more watered down, especially from the resolutions that had been proposed going into the December meeting. Going into that, nearly half of the Texas GOP's executive committee had called for an outright ban with this group, Defend Texas Liberty, that has kind of been at the center of the scandals and our reporting. And also, really, the initial proposal, which didn't actually go to the vote in December, would have also, explicitly named the head of Defend Texas Liberty and called for the Texas GOP to cut ties with the group, which is one of its biggest donors, until the leaders involved in the scandal had been removed fully and an explanation had been given. 5 months later, what we saw on Saturday was a much more watered down version. I think something that was a kind of a middle ground, in between what some people in the party wanted and what others did. So.
And what led up to this resolution, just the creation of it?
It really goes back to October, when we reported that Jonathan Stickland, the head of Defend Texas Liberty, had hosted Nick Fuentes, a famous white supremacist and Adolf Hitler admirer, at his offices. And that kind of spawned more reporting from us, where we uncovered a lot more ties between people in the Defend Texas Liberty orbit and, who were just avowed racists and anti-Semites. And so that kind of prompted a lot of infighting within the party that got us to this vote on Saturday.
Okay, Robert Downen from the Texas Tribune, always good to talk to you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.